Greetings adventurers, welcome back. It is I, Eric UK, with another vid. Today is inspired by a video by Ginny D. I'll pop the link down below, where she talks about making, or realistically it's why travel in D&D sucks, pardon me, and how you can work on that, how you can improve that. And she's very right. In previous videos, I've talked about how dungeon crawls, as much as they are a part of the D&D sort of like slash fantasy roleplay genre, very much so, they're also really boring after a point, because there's only so many ways you can describe a corridor or a room, and eventually it is just, you know, you move from scene to scene to scene to scene, and meh. I like dungeon crawls. I really do. They are, to me, part of the class thing. But trying to come up with adequate and suitable descriptions each time is just a severe pain in the backside. But overland travel is even worse. Or even worse, you're travelling by boat, where there is nothing around you but waves and fish. One thing that Ginny D mentions, and I think this is absolutely spot on, is that we've all kind of been spoilt by the overland travel in films like Lord of the Rings. No matter how good a GM you are, your descriptions are never going to match what we envision up here in our mind's eye for travel. You might see it as riding horseback across New Zealand, but it doesn't always come across that way to the players. And once again, if you've got a campaign or even just an adventure that is travel heavy, there's only so far that you can get the description before it begins to turn into old hat and the journey becomes fairly boring. There's a reason why a lot of travel in role-playing games is largely just glazed over. It doesn't generally have anything to do with the game or your scenario. It's just a means of getting you from point A to point B. Suggestions that I've tried in the past is really write down effectively a descriptive block. I do this for dungeons. I make sure that every room, I can't do it for the corridors obviously, but every room, every major site has a block, a text block, like in the old modules, so that I can work on that. And everything, every room, every major location has a well thought out, well worded description. I'm not just saying it's a 10 by 10 room, there's a table in the corner and a bunk bed in the other. Sat in the middle at a table is an orc eating a pie. You need a bit more than that. Obviously, you don't want to write War and Peace, but you want something to make every room stand out. Likewise, I would recommend doing the same with overland travel. If you're not going to drop any encounters in, and bear in mind, you don't need to, because that's just dropping in a fight for the sake of it, in my opinion. If it doesn't do anything towards the plot or the stories that you're running, is there a reason for having it? But you can do a description, a block text again, to describe the environment, the roads, travellers they pass. I mean, obviously there's an encounter you can have where you can have a little bit of a role play. But again, unless you've got something that's relevant to your scenario or your campaign, that's probably going to be 2 or 3 minutes and then you get on with it. There is also the other way around. Back in the days of second edition AD&D, we had a guy in our group who, fantastic player. But when he came to wanting to do the DMing, he'd come up with this idea. I think we only did about 3 sessions, unfortunately, before he sort of fell apart. But he had this scenario idea where we were all on a boat, big storm, we all wake up, ship is wrecked and we were on the shore of an island. The problem was exploring that island was like watching the National Geographic Channel Discovery. You know, the way we had descriptions of birds and bat guano and, you know, the basalt rock that made up the cliffs and stuff like this. And, you know, yeah, the first time around it was like, wow, what's this? But after about an hour of this, 2 hours, you're like, can I just kill something, please? So you can go too far with it. It's about finding a nice balance. Again, as I say, if you're going to do something like Overland Travel, prepare yourself a block. Even if you don't read it verbatim, it's giving you an idea of descriptives or terms or just words that you can use on the fly to describe where the characters are going and the travel. Obviously, if they decide to take a different route than what you've got, you're kind of a bit scuppered and you're going to have to make it up anyway. There's a reason that Overland Travel generally ends up being a bit of a railroad, A to B to C. As I mentioned earlier, it's a bit difficult when you have something like ocean travel or sailing down the river on a barge. Again, there's only so much you can describe, especially at sea. And if you've got characters that are capable of overland flight, again, you're in a completely different situation again. Because obviously they're going to see your world, they're going to see the landscape they're traversing as something completely, from a completely different angle. And probably a lot greater speed. It is a difficult one, and after many years of DMing, or GMing, whatever you want to call it, it's always been one of those more difficult things for me. The role play is generally really good. I can get into the head of an NPC and I can say what needs to be said, and I can, but it's coming up with descriptives that always stumps me. And travel is always, you know, the main one. That's just my little thoughts on this for today. I would say, I'm going to pop the link to Ginny D's video down below. I recommend taking a look at that. She's a lot more eloquent than I am. And you can get some good ideas there as well. What do you do? I'd like to know, pardon me, your thoughts. What are your techniques on trying to do overland description or dungeon description or planar description or whatever? How do you do it? Do you do what I suggest, block of text and either verbatim or use it for inspiration? Do you have something else? Do you just completely wing it? And if so, how do you stop it being boring and or repetitive? I'd love to know your thoughts and styles. Thank you for watching, guys. I know it's only a quick little vid today, but it sort of popped into my head after watching Ginny's video. Give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and that little bell icon, as it would help. Until next time, take care, good gaming.